On the news front, this Sunday, the 3rd of October, 2021. All this as electioneering continues, as you saw on your screen. It's happening full swing ahead of the local government elections and, of course, a few other notable stories taking centre stage for the coming week. Now, I'm your host, Liesl Wilson. Let's take a look at some of your top stories for today. Right, the ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa is in Nelson Mandela Bay for the second part of ANC's Eastern Cape ANC election campaign. Yesterday, Ramaphosa was in Buffalo City Municipality on a door-to-door campaign urging voters to vote for the party. But for more on this, our reporter Lerato Fikisi is standing by for us. Lerato, a very good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. Perhaps recap what has unfolded today. It seems conditions are faring a little bit better for the party than yesterday.
Very good afternoon to Liesl. Well, right now we're broadcasting from Utenig, which is a small town that's part of Nelson Mandela Bay Metro, where the president is going to come here and also address the residents. But before he came here, he was in Ward 60, which is Mobuza State in Gqeberha, where before he took to his door-to-door campaign, spoke to residents there, and there he was saying that people, number one, must go out in their numbers to vaccinate so that the country can ease the COVID lockdown regulations, and just urging people as much as they can, even beyond voting, to get vaccinated first. But number two, he also spoke about the importance of the ANC reclaiming the Nelson Mandela Bay Metro again. You remember, Liesl, that in 2016, after having reigns of power for so many years, the ANC lost to the DA, coming in at a low 40.28, as opposed to the DA, who won by 48.6. So he was saying and urging people, saying that this can't happen again. They can't lose the Metro again. And if anything, the people have to go out of their numbers and ensure this doesn't happen by casting their votes and voting for the ANC. He also went on to say that he wants to promise the people of Gqeberha that, unlike those who are in power right now, in this case the DA, they will deliver on services, really stemming in terms of housing, stemming in terms of water, and saying that if the people in Gqeberha vote for the ANC, they will get better services.
Well, Lerato, you've mentioned what the president has put forth, obviously to woo voters ahead of the local government elections. I wonder if you've managed to speak to some of the community members at large. I mean, what are the issues they're echoing? How have they received the message as well from the president of the party?
We actually spoke to a number of people that were saying that they're going to cast their votes on the 1st of November. But the one thing that really just stand out for me, Liesl, was the issue of youth unemployment. The majority of people we spoke to, whether it was an elderly lady or a young child or young son who was unemployed, is that they want job creation to be prioritized by those who come into power. The majority of young people in the Eastern Cape are facing huge issues of unemployment, especially young graduates who feel they've got every right to be employed because they've got the qualifications. So I think number one would be youth unemployment. Number two was the issue of housing, which really isn't an issue of local government, but more national issue, but they were saying that that must be addressed as well. And then also in terms of just cleaning up the streets, basic services like refuge collection must be done more efficiently by those who come into power.
All right, so let's perhaps also just conclude this by looking at representation at large. I wonder, with the councillors put forth and also the leadership and representation, how reflective is it of the demographics of South Africa, and also as we relay and tackle the issue of gender parity in the country?
Well, I'm not sure. I didn't really catch that question again, Liesl, but I think you're speaking in terms of refuge collection. It's still a huge issue in the metro, especially if you drive around in the township. You still see the issue of refuge collection still being an issue. Most of the streets in the township are very, very dirty. There is illegal dumping sites all over. There's also rubbish dumped all over the streets. So that's something people have been complaining about, because not only does it make the streets dirty, but also becomes inhumane in terms of the unhygienic scenes that people are exposed to on a day-to-day basis.
All right, Lerato, it does seem like we are going to struggle to hear you perhaps going forward, just given the noise that is happening in the background. But thank you very much for that recap of what has transpired. Of course, the day is progressing, so we'll continue to cross to you as that unfolds. Again, the ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa in Nelson Mandela Bay for the second part of the ANC's Eastern Cape ANC election campaign. Obviously, yesterday we saw President Ramaphosa was in Buffalo City Municipality on a door-to-door campaign. Perhaps affected a little bit by the weather that was happening, but he did urge voters to come out and vote for the party. That was our reporter, Lerato Fikisi, just giving us an update as the day unfolds, and of course the program too. Well, moving on with other stories now, the DA leader John Steenhuisen says he is confident that they'll win at least 4 major metros within the country. He was speaking in Cape Town ahead of the unveiling of a new advert with plans to ramp up their campaign ahead of the local government elections on the 1st of next month. Steenhuisen says they are likely to hold on to the city of Cape Town. Our reporter Lulama Matia was there.
What party leader John Steenhuisen has told the supporters of the party here this morning is that as they intensify their campaign in the build-up to local elections on the 1st of November, now they have launched their advert that they are saying is going to be appearing tonight, this evening, on TV platforms, including the SABC and all other DA online platforms. Now, they want to go out to communities and sell the DA and tell people why they need to vote for them. Their slogan is that they get things done. So what John is telling them, has told them actually, because they have just finished now, what John has told them is that they must go now with that ticket to sell, to make an example of the cities where they govern, that they make things done, and they must make, when they selling the DA's manifesto, they must also make reference to reports, including that of the Auditor General, which has given many of the municipalities under the control of the DA clean audits, that they get things done where they govern. He's also told them that it's only critics of the DA who are saying DA is not delivering in townships and in some parts of communities where people were poor or disadvantaged or previously disadvantaged people are staying. He's saying that yes, there is room for improvement, but they do deliver services, and their record speaks for itself, because people on the ground are buying the DA, and their internal polls that they've conducted as the party has shown that the DA is competitive. It is going to this election upbeat after it had suffered some losses in the previous national election in 2019, although he's saying that they can't be definite that which municipalities or metros they are going to win. But he did say that there is good work that has been done on the ground, and there is hope that some metros they will win. And this time he says they don't just want to win, they want to win with majority, because they don't want coalitions. Although he did say plain that in as much as they don't want coalition are part of a constitutional democracy. They can work with parties that they share the same vision with, not parties that are going to pull on the sides and end up not being able to deliver services to the people.
Well, ANC Deputy President David Mabuza is in Hammanskraal today. This area has been hit by a raft of water challenges for well over a decade. Poor service delivery has also thwarted development in the area. But for more on this, let's bring in our reporter Molemo Wane Motwa to give us a little bit more updates in the area. Molemo, good afternoon. Thank you very much for joining us. It seems that there are some issues plaguing the area. Of course, water being one of the key issues that the community is facing. I mean, what are some of these major concerns? How have they failed to be addressed over the past 10 years?
Good afternoon. We are in Hammanskraal right now at a village called Sekampaneng, where the Deputy President is on a door-to-door campaign, as the local elections are drawing to a close. And some of the people that we have spoken to from yesterday when we were here is the issues of service delivery. Well, as we know that the issue of water here in this area is the main problem, which has seen people going for about 20 years without drinkable water. As you'd recall that in 2019 the South African Human Rights Commission declared the water here unfit for human consumption, saying that for them to continue drinking water, I mean that kind of water was an infringement to their rights. And as you would recall as well, the Tshwane, the DA administration introduced or rather launched a 300 million project to refurbish the Rooiwal water plant. But as we spoke to some of the people here yesterday, what they were complaining or having concerns about is the fact that the project is taking long. As last month, some areas here, because of the closure of the treatment plant, went a week without water. But just to hear more on that, today I am here with Tshwane ANC, Dr. Maipa. Dr. Maipa, lives seem to be at stake here. We spoke to some people in this area, in Rockville to be precise, who are lamenting the fact that service delivery, is going at a very snail's pace. Your comment?
Thank you, Mulimo, and to the SABC viewers. I just wanted to say that the African National Congress, we are aware of the problems that are besieging our people here in the city of Tshwane. You would know that the Democratic Alliance EFF coalition has taken the resources to affluent areas of the east and neglected what we have been doing here. You would know that there's a water treatment plant that the African National Congress Commission called the Temba Water Treatment Plant, which before 2016 when we were here, it had been supplying clean water here. But that was interrupted by the DA-EFF coalition as a way to fight and exacerbate the problem of water here. But you would know that our Minister of Water and Sanitation was here, Minister Senzo Mkunu, to come and resolve the issues here. Parliament has intervened now, national government, because in the past 5 years, really there's been failure in addressing the issue of water in this area. But our solution as the African National Congress is that we are asking our people again that they must come and we have seen the problems and the battles they had. They must come back to us. We would continue with the work that we had started to give clean water here, because there was blue drop status that one has received nationally, I mean in terms of the supply of clean water. But that blue drop status, we have lost it since the reds and the blue came on board for obvious reasons. So we are saying to our people, please come back to us. We have also seen our mistakes, we know them and we acknowledge them. But if we are given an opportunity again, we'll be able to solve those problems.
Talking about the mistakes, the Deputy President also apologized on the mistakes done by the party, saying that they have actually caused the movement not to be able to deliver as it has been promising. If you can just tell us as to going forward, what is it that you plan to do differently?
Yes, indeed, we are with the Deputy President, Mabuza, who has worked very hard in the past few days here in the areas of Tshwane. We're in Mamelodi, now we are in Hammanskraal. The ANC has a plan, and the plan is that we want to stabilize the finances of Tshwane, because one of the biggest problems is the mismanagement of funds, the failure on the fiduciary responsibilities of the governing coalition right now. And we would like our people to give us a resounding victory, because we have seen that coalitions don't work. Those people don't have a plan. Our plan is to make sure that we continue on 85% access to piped water in these areas and many other areas of Tshwane, 85.4% to access to electricity that we have seen since the governing ANC since 2000 when the metro was established. We have moved, you will know that we have moved from 7.2 human settlement to 13.5 as the African National Congress, and we want to continue more building houses next to people where the people work so that they have access to jobs and so on. There's one big issue for young people, which is an issue that we had introduced as the ANC, which is the issue of Wi-Fi, where they use it for homeworks, they use it for research. You would know we are the biggest hub in terms of academic institutions, and that was part of service delivery, basic service of Wi-Fi that they had switched on the coalition here, and young people are frustrated. So we are calling on young people to work with us, and also we know there was an issue of Tsepo 10,000 here that provided skills for young people so that when they finish their education, they can get into a job and be placed somewhere. You know that was stopped. We want to continue with the work and even do more. You know, we have introduced the bus rapid transport system, REA. We had to extend it to townships even for the 5 years. Not single township has been extended that BRT service. So what we are saying as the ANC is that we still have a plan, our vision is still on. We are just asking that our people come in their numbers and give us an opportunity to govern again. Because when we govern, we know that we can build better communities together with our people. Here in Tshwane, here in Hammanskraal, here in Mamelodi, here in Mabopane, Ga-Rankuwa, and Winterveld, in Olivenhout Bosch, in Atteridgeville where our people live. And we know majority of our people, they need these services.
Just one of the residents whom you engaged with earlier, told you about the fact that the water tankers which are delivering water in this area are refusing to, the people delivering water are refusing to fill JoJo tanks. Have you been made aware of that situation?
Yes, when we were in the previous Ward 8 here in Hammanskraal, in Dilope, we were told by a lady that there are people that are refusing to give water. Remember, the leading coalition doesn't have interest to make sure that the water issue is resolved. Now, even people who are giving water here, they're not monitored. There's no evaluation to make sure that the water is still clean when it's delivered, the water is given to the right people. What we have seen just in the 5 years is just water tankers coming here without any management. Now, we know that these people who are in the leading coalition, they don't care. The ANC want to resolve that issue of water once and for all. We are saying that give us a chance. We have the solution in place already of making sure that we fix the Rooival, but also we fix the timber treatment, because the timber treatment is the one next to these areas where we can supply clean water. I've heard you saying that the DA commissioned any treatment plant. There's no treatment plant that they've put together. The Rooival existed for the past 30 years and we were using it, but they never maintained that situation.
And one last thing, Dr. Maipa. The situation of, or rather the Tshwane municipality, a lot has been happening there. As the ANC, are you confident that it'll be, it'll get back in the hands of the ANC?
Our people in their large numbers, in their thousands and hundreds, they are saying that the ANC must come back, because this is an important capital city in the country, the administrative capital of our government, and that is an ANC-led government. We are the third largest city in the world housing ambassadors and high commissioners. You will know that we are the third largest after New York and also London. We are the third largest in terms of by square kilometer when you measure the radius after New York and Tokyo in Japan. So we are a very serious capital city. We want to continue providing services and actually lift the standard of this capital city, because there have been deterioration of services. The townships in Atteridgeville are very dirty because there's no waste collection in this area. You know, we had a EPWP program of cleaning the townships and making sure that the areas are clean. You will see now if you walk around here, there are no plans or maybe skips in place to make sure that it is always clean and people can throw their dustbin or rubbish somewhere. So we are saying as the ANC to our people that we are humbling ourselves. We don't come here with any arrogance, but you will know our track record. We have done these things before. We are saying that we want to continue doing even more and building all these communities together with them.
Thank you, sir. That was Dr. Kgoshi Mahepa, Tshwane ANC Regional Chair. And as I can just reflect back on the statement that the DP said earlier about apologizing as the ANC, saying that because of the divisions, within the movement, service delivery has been impeded, and those are some of the things that, as the ANC, they are now committing to work on as the country is drawing nearer to the local elections.
All right, Molemo Wane Mutai, thank you very much for your time. Again, just giving us an update. But we've seen ANC Deputy President David Mabuza is in fact in Hammanskraal today. This area has been hit by a raft of water challenges for over a decade. Food service delivery is also thwarted development within the area. Obviously, just getting an update from her. She speaks to the opposition cope in the area. But ahead of the upcoming 2021 municipal elections, the National People's Front launched its election manifesto today. The party will contest the city of Johannesburg and Ekurhuleni. Our reporter Abungile Dumako was there.
The National People's Front also is no exception. They are going all out to make sure that they convince potential viewers. Here's the document in fact, in my hands, that was being delivered here by the party president, based on 9 areas of focus that if they get to be in control of municipalities like Ekurhuleni and some other municipalities like Pietermaritzburg in KwaZulu-Natal, these are the 9 priorities that they're going to focus on. But the president himself, Mr. Bheki Gumbi, joins me so that we can expand more on what he has just told his party members here in Davidton. Good morning and thank you so much for your time. Specifically, why launch the manifesto here in Davidton?
Thanks very much, Babongile. We launch here because we are contesting the metro of Ekurhuleni, and we are launching here right in the community so that we demonstrate the problem of service delivery in the community areas. You can see the roads here are not that you can say is the right road where community members could enjoy. Not far from here, you can see where other race states where their houses are being built. Their roads are clean and tarred, but where black people are reside, nobody cares. We are saying since the party has been launched in 2018, we never join the crowd of political parties, but we launched the party so that we fast track service delivery, particularly to the community of black people, because are neglected. Nobody cares about them. Even the houses here, I'm very glad that this Ward 110 in Ekurhuleni is a very active branch for the NAPF. The leadership, our leadership is working with the community here to make sure that the housing allocation is being done in a proper way. Those who deserve to be allocated in the housing, they get it. They fight corruption strongly to the municipality official who are allocating houses in an unfair manner. We come to say to the people of Ekurhuleni, to the people of Johannesburg, to the people of South Africa, the National People's Front is here, is very much concerned with the service delivery. We want to fast track because policies are there, but the leadership is not willing to implement, even if the budget is sufficient to do that, but they decide not to do, but to steal. If they not steal, they just employ or contract their friends and neighboring people so that the money will circle to the relatives and friends. We are here to say that one is not right. People who are supposed to get services, they might get it without being asked the membership. We prioritize road access, we prioritize health, we prioritize water, particularly in the rural area, because we have also contesting in the Zululand municipalities and Okahlamba. I can tell you, Babongile, there are places where there is no water at all. Even the water tanks who are supposed to deliver services, some they sell, the people they pay not less than 1,000 for 5,000 liters.
Okay, let's talk about your visibility, your groundwork on the grassroots level. Are you convinced you have done enough to make sure that you reach all corners of the municipalities that you are targeting, to make sure that you are being known so that you can be voted into power?
time is too short, but I'm happy that our volunteers are working tirelessly. Every day they are on the ground, every day they are doing door to door, every day. But what they come back to us with, the people are fed up, they don't want to vote. But if they talk to them, they are very convinced that at least you are making sense, the NAPF is making sense, we can go out and vote for the party. We are hoping that people will vote for NAPF, and once we got that vote, I can tell them that it will be the vote that is not wasted.
Thank you so much.
Going to work hard for them.
All right, welcome back to the week ahead with myself, Liesl Wilson. Let's continue with more news at this hour. The road to the highest office in the judiciary was not smooth for Chief Justice Mogoeng, whose term of office comes to an end in just over a week. Now, he's had to fend off criticisms and mounting calls for him to withdraw his candidacy.
Judge Sandile Ngobo was invited to continue as Chief Justice, but out of respect for the judiciary, he walked away just because there was a problem with the law, the Act. In your case, the situation in which you are 100 times worse than that of Sandile Ngobo. I am inviting you, I'm making an appeal to you. Follow the Sandile Ngobo option. Please withdraw.
Chairperson, I think my colleague Commissioner here is out of order. To put such a proposition, it is not his duty to put such a proposition to the candidate. We, as commissioners here, will decide what the position is of this commission, not one person, and object to the manner in which he is putting this thing.
I think the objection is good. Commissioner van der Merwe, I think you can't continue down that route.
No, I have the right to reply. I am putting a request to the judge on behalf of myself, on behalf of nobody else. And I'm saying to him, he will do
Chairperson, the request is out of order, and I ask you to rule on that.
It is not out of order, and I won't be stopped.
It is not for Mr. van der Merwe to decide whether the question is out of order.
I said it is not for me. I'm asking you, please withdraw.
Chairperson, I ask you to rule whether that question is out of order.
Yeah, the question is not out of order. I can appeal to you, exercise the Sandile Ngobo option. Walk away, let things calm down, and then maybe you can become the Chief Justice in time. You're only 51.
I think you've made the point, and we've had the objection, which I think, in my view, is a good objection, because our purpose is basically to act in accordance with what the Constitution requires of us. And I think, but seemingly you want to answer Justice Mogoeng, do you?
No, I'm asking to make closing remarks if commissioners are done, and if it's not possible, I'll understand.
Commissioner van der Merwe has been in the JSE for quite too long. Maybe it's high time that he needs to think.
Mr. Minister, I think you have been too long in your seat. You should go, not me.
Those of us who don't work in Parliament are not used to this heckling, I must say. I'll be with you, Deputy Minister. Where we work, it's one person at a time.
I can assure you that after this, the Minister and I will have a drink.
Oh, okay. Where I work is always one person at a time, but I understand there could be other cultures in other arms of the state.
I welcome the robust public debate that took place about this important matter, and I'm grateful to these pressure groups for facilitating the rich interview that we have had since yesterday. I hope, though, that in the future we will be truthful and fair in our presentation of the respective positions that we hold. We have been in this, that we hold, I beg your pardon. And I appeal for a semblance of respect just a semblance of respect for whatever candidate we may choose to comment on as public interest groups and whoever else may wish to comment on the suitability or otherwise of a candidate. I'm also glad that I am the one who was criticized in the media over the past several weeks and not any other judge or magistrate, because judging by how devastated judges and magistrates who called me were, as a result of the reports in the media about me, I have reason to believe that very few, if any, would have survived the intensity of the pressure that surrounded the comments that were made about me. They would in all likelihood have either withdrawn, as just suggested, and I may indicate that somebody did actually write me an email suggesting that I withdraw, and I said to him, you know, it's always a good idea to reserve judgment until you've heard the other side of the story.
Well, panel, the President Cyril Ramaphosa has appointed will shortlist the names of 3 or 4 people that members of the public have submitted for the next Chief Justice. Friday was the last day for the public submissions, and the term of the incumbent Moseneke ends on the 11th of this month. Now, the Constitution stipulates that the President should appoint the Chief Justice after consulting the Judicial Service Commission, the JSC, and leaders of the National Assembly. However, he's decided to invite public nominations. Now, these names will be submitted to the JSC, after which Ramaphosa will make the final decision. But for analysis on the overall state of the judiciary, as well as previewing some of the processes to unfold, I'm now joined by Karen Moore, News 24 legal journalist, for a little more. Karen, good afternoon. Thank you very much for joining us. Let's just look at the President's process to appoint the successor to Chief Justice Moseneke. I'm just given the pace of the process, and also because at such crucial times, I mean, given the state of the courts, what is being reflected here? Is there likely to be a leadership vacuum at the judiciary for the rest of the year?
Well, I think it's very clear that the next Chief Justice will not be appointed before Chief Justice Moseneke's term comes to an end at the middle of this month. That much is apparent. We know that the panel that has been appointed to advise on a potential short list of nominees following that public nomination process will present their recommendations to the President, and he will then decide on several names to put forward to the Judicial Service Commission for interviews. And that's going to clearly go beyond the deadline of Mosenike's exit from the position formally as Chief Justice, because he hasn't been effectively in this position for a number of months now. We understand that Deputy Chief Justice Raymond Zondo, who is serving as the acting Chief Justice, will remain into the position in his position as acting Chief Justice until a determination is made on who will become the most powerful judge in the South African judiciary. So in terms of a leadership level decision, there will be someone in place. But obviously, we've seen organizations like Freedom Under Law raising dire concerns about the fact that within the next few weeks or so, there will be 6 vacancies at the Constitutional Court, which my understanding is effectively a record number. Tomorrow, the Judicial Service Commission will have to redo the interviews that they did for 2 vacancies at the Constitutional Court after they were taken to court by CASAC over the irrational, unlawful, and potentially unconstitutional interview process that they went through, which saw, incredible attacks on a number of the female judges in particular who were up for the position. We know that the JSC chose not to defend that process, and while not conceding that it was in fact unlawful, it will be replayed by the JSC tomorrow morning. So, the fact that that is even happening speaks to a judiciary that is definitively in crisis over a number of particular issues. And the longer it remains rudderless without a Chief Justice at the helm, the more that crisis will arguably deepen.
Well, Karen, before we perhaps look at what's to come, I just want to backtrack a little bit and look at the tenure of Chief Justice Mogoeng overall. I mean, just looking at some of the more outstanding cases and even some of the more challenging ones. We saw, for example, the challenging of the instruction of the Judicial Conduct Committee that he apologized and withdraw comments on South Africa's foreign policy towards Israel and Palestine. But there were also a few other impressions that came through during his tenure, some which created some tensions and a buzz. What is reflected during his tenure?
Well, I mean, Chief Justice Mogoeng did come out very strongly, at around 2015, there were a number of attacks on the judiciary. 2019, we've seen sustained attacks on the judiciary, particularly during the Zuma administration, where he came out and actually asked the president, Jacob Zuma, as he then was, for engagement between the judiciary and government. And he came out and he said, look, this is not acceptable. If people want to criticize the judiciary, they need to do so on the basis of actual judgments. They can't, as certain members of the ANC were doing at the time, just say judges are counter-revolutionary or certain courts are always going to rule in certain ways. So he came out very strongly, gave a number of important judgments with regards to the independence of the Hawks. He gave the seminal ruling, the Nkandla judgment in relation to Thuli Madonsela's powers. He did do a number of things that really held the backbone of the judiciary at a time when it was under considerable attack. And he affirmed the powers of the public protector, as she then was, Thuli Madonsela, to have her reports respected. But subsequent, in 2019, he came out when the judiciary was under attack and said that, allegations of corruption, etc., and said again that people needed to prove it. But over the last few years of his tenure, he has become an incredibly divisive figure, and that has been a criticism that has been leveled against him from several quarters. He is, of course, has had an adverse finding, as you correctly point out, in relation to certain statements he made about South Africa's foreign policy with Israel, which were very much formed by his religious beliefs. And his insistence after that complaint was made that he would never apologize for making them because of his deeply held faith as a Christian. Also, unfortunately, he came out and made certain statements about the COVID-19 vaccine and his wish that it would not carry the mark of Satan on it, which obviously, that's the subject of another JSC complaint. I'm not sure what the status of that is, but that obviously came in for a lot of criticism given the need for South Africans to be vaccinated and, the kind of impression that may create for someone in his office. He opted out some of the most important cases that the court had to face. The contempt case in regards to the former president's contempt of the state capture inquiry. He opted out of that completely. He took long leave. And he effectively abandoned the judiciary that he had once, so vocally advocated for and defended. That story, I'm sure, is his to tell, and he has his reasons for it. But it has created a profoundly broken and divided judiciary. And what is so problematic, of course, is with those JSC interviews that occurred that have been now going to be rerun tomorrow morning. The Chief Justice openly embarked on an attack of Judge Daya Pillay over her relationship with Pravin Gordhan, the minister, in which he suggested that the minister had made certain untoward or potentially problematic inquiries about her, interview for a position at the SCA, which fueled a lot of backlash against that judge and created a highly politicized environment. It subsequently turns out during the litigation that when the discussions were being made about which judges should be nominated for the Constitutional Court, there was no deliberation, and the Chief Justice merely put forward the names of people that he wanted shortlisted, and they were shortlisted. And that, of course, was legally something that the JSC chose not to defend in court, which is in itself telling. So there's a very mixed history of Mogoeng's leadership of the courts in this country. And unfortunately, the last part of it has created a deeply divided, fractured and broken judiciary that is going to be very difficult for the next Chief Justice to try and repair.
So, Karen, you know, in the same breath, then, I mean, given the state of the courts, the vacancies that need to be filled, and some of the issues that you've alluded to, I mean, what issues will need to be grappled with to maintain confidence in the judiciary at this point? And as we look at the processes from here on to, what does the process of appointing the next Chief Justice then ultimately look like as well?
Well, first of all, on your second point, you know, we have never seen a process before where there's been public participation in the selection of the Chief Justice. Nelson Mandela did do it. He did ask for, you know, outside nominations, but certainly the panel process, but that was in collaboration with the JSE. The panel process is pretty unique. You know, there are a number of people, including former Public Protector Thuli Madonsela, two former and the current and former Minister of Justice, an academic involved, and a judicial officer involved in that process. But already alarm bells being raised by, for example, Johan Krichler, retired constitutional justice from Freedom Under Law, who says, you know, has raised concerns about the fact that there are no recently retired judges who are on that panel who can really give insight into the challenges that the judiciary is currently facing, and has raised concerns about the way in which that panel is constituted and why it doesn't have a legal senior professional in it that can also advise on the kind of legal and you know, issues that the South African legal landscape is you know, currently facing. That being said, you know, it's very apparent that the new Chief Justice, whoever he or she may be, will walk into a deeply divided court. We know this because of the Jacob Zuma contempt matter, the judgments in which the minority and effectively accused the majority of the court of acting unconstitutionally. And in this rescission judgment, Justices Chris Jafta and Liana Turan going as far as to suggest that Jacob Zuma may have an avenue to pursue his case in an outside legal body, which is now attempting to do, because they're contending that effectively his rights have been substantively violated by the apex court. So it's very obvious that there are deep problems within that court in its immediacy, but it's also apparent that there are deep problems within the Judicial Service Commission. I mean, the last interviews in April, where judges were being, you know, female judges were being subjected to incredibly misogynistic lines of questioning. There was a pervasive atmosphere of sexism. You know, what happened to Daya Pillay was completely unacceptable. The fact that she was abused, very obviously in the way that she was, without anyone intervening, was a blight on the judiciary and the Judicial Service Commission. The fact that when we are having interviews now for the Constitutional Court, there are only 8 judges pursuing, you know, that process, when in prior times there would be dozens of people vying for that position, speaks to a complete breakdown and an apprehension from judges about the way in which they will be treated by the JSE. Anti-Semitic remarks were made. There were, you know, it was a profoundly politicized environment, and the JSE itself is in a dire state of crisis. That needs to be addressed. And also, of course, the attack on the judiciary that judges are facing at the moment.
Well, Karen, just very quickly as we wrap up this conversation, I mean, with public submissions closed, as you alluded to earlier on, and a change in the usual modus operandi with the president allowing public submissions, I just wanted to know, who are some of the front runners? We also saw on the 1st of October, Black Lawyers Association also issuing a statement endorsing Judge President Hlophe for position of Chief Justice. What span has been chucked into the works on that end as well?
Well, on the Judge Hlophe issue, there is simply no way that he will be shortlisted as a potential nominee for the Constitutional Court. His name has been put forward, but the panel, I think, can say unequivocally will not suggest his name to President Cyril Ramaphosa. And of course, President Cyril Ramaphosa, with his strong emphasis on anti-corruption and cleaning up government, certainly is not going to, I would argue, is not going to put his name forward, even if he is shortlisted by that panel, which I think is completely unlikely. And then, you know, of course, the front runners, DCJ Raymond Zondo, who only has 3 years left of his term, so that may be a factor in any decision over whether he becomes Chief Justice. Supreme Court of Appeal President Mandisa Maya, who's regarded as a very strong leader, has done a great deal of work in ensuring the efficiency and transformation within the Supreme Court of Appeal. The Gauteng Judge President Dunstan Mlambo, who has been, delivered a number of seminal judgments, has no prior experience in the Constitutional Court, but is regarded as someone with an incredible level of integrity and professionalism. And of course, Liana Tehran, who of course wrote the dissenting judgment in both the Zuma contempt matter and the rescission matter, is considered one of the dark horses within that race, and is certainly regarded as someone who is quite likely to make that shortlist and probably be interviewed for the position as the next Chief Justice.
Karen Maughan, thank you very much for your time. Again, Karen Maughan, News 24 legal journalist, again unpacking the state of the judiciary ahead of the appointment of the next Chief Justice, as the term of the incumbent Moseneke obviously ends on the 11th of this month. Again, thank you very much for your time. Well, in other news now, Health Minister Dr. Joe Phaahla is on a Vuma vaccination campaign in eThekwini District Municipality. He is accompanied by KZN Premier Sihle Zikalala and KZN Health MEC Nomagugu Semelane. Now, the campaign started with door-to-door visits in various parts of Umlazi and Glebeland's Hostel to drum up support for the COVID-19 vaccination rollout program. Our colleague Mlondi Radebe is covering the story for us.
We're in Umlazi V section today, where the National Minister of Health and Provincial MEC Nomagugu Semelane, they are campaigning. They are trying to make sure that everyone in Umlazi is vaccinating through the Department of Health as we speak now. Because you remember that the National President Baba Cyril Ramaphosa have just announced that the Eastern Cape is the first province that is leading when it comes to vaccination. We'll just get from Baba Joe Phaahla in relation to where is the province of KwaZulu-Natal in terms of vaccination. Minister, thank you very much for your time. Briefly about the vaccination program in South Africa. What can you tell us?
Well, the vaccination program is really moving steadily. We want to increase the pace, as we have said that our target is to reach just at least 70% by latest end of December, possibly the middle of December. Now, to reach that number, it means that we need to reach at least 27 million adult people by that time. So that's why the President has given us this instruction to say we must go out, mobilize, work with our colleagues, the MECs and departments and all the health workers on the ground to make sure that more and more people must come through, because where we stand now, the numbers of people who have already got at least one jab is just under 13 million. So we need to reach by December, either end of December, possibly middle. We need to reach another 14 million people plus, about 14.5 million people. If we do that amongst the adult population, we'll have covered the 70%. So that's why we're here with the MEC today to do exactly that.
The President have announced in the Eastern Cape in the last hour saying that the Eastern Cape is number one when it comes to vaccination. Where is KZN?
Well, KZN, let me say KZN started very well. When we opened up the over 60s, over 50, it was really moving very well. Somewhere in the middle there was a bit of a disturbance, as you would remember, the disturbances which were here, but it looks like there were also some increase in terms of false news about what the vaccine can do, and we started to see KZN dropping. So at the current moment, KZN is just under 30% of the adult population. It should soon get into 30%. So it's somewhere, as if I remember very well, it's somewhere around number 5 or 6, yeah, around that. Those which are still below 30% of the population is just below Gauteng. although of course we know Gauteng is the highest population. So we're really working closely with the team here, because KZN is very important in terms of national coverage, because it's got the second highest population in the country. So that's why we're really working with them to try and encourage the population. It's very important that KZN also gets very close to 40% of the adult population.
How easy or difficult is to campaign during this time, the Vuma campaign?
Well, we're up against a whole lot of misleading news. Despite all our attempt to spread the correct message, you still hear a lot of people who are fearful, who hear that the vaccine is going to kill you. Some of them have had stories about it's going to change their bodies. Despite all our efforts, but we are not giving up. We need to keep on talking, keep on listening, and then responding. So that's why we go where people are. We'll be going to some houses, going into the taxi ranks, just to make sure that we can understand those who are still hesitating to can come and take the vaccine. But I'm very encouraged. I mean, 2 days ago I was in Ladysmith and then also in Escort on Friday. Today I'm here. So the idea is to really interact with people so that in our communication already, for instance, the young lady who was here, just as an example, the gogos at home are not able to come here. So those are some of the things we need to respond to. So the team, MEC's team, are going to go with the mobile to go and give the vaccine. So it shows that in some instances, especially with the older people, it's less of the false information. It's more of sometimes just being unable to access. So you got a combination. The younger people, because of the social media, they get all sorts of confusion, and that's why we must explain some of those things. But there are also, especially your older people, sometimes they just don't have the necessary financial resources. So we must make sure that we go to them.
Well, that's where we're going to leave it for you today. From myself, Liesl Wilson, and the team, until next time, it is goodbye. Have a lovely week ahead.